All right, so we are doing another watercolor summer demo, watercolor summer 2024, I should say. And I'm finally getting to this page in the Kawaii Tarot coloring book by Lulu Mayo. We're going to be doing the Magician page. Now, I don't know if I flipped to the previous page, but in this book, I want to use a lot of my shiny, like iridescent metallic type watercolors, and I want to make these like cards that if you held them to the light and moved them back and forth, they would be really shiny, and I definitely achieved that with this one. So I am using these watercolors. The ones that are open are called, well, they're all Dreamland Watercolors, which I'll talk about in a minute. This is the Major Arcana um, Part 1, which feels pretty fitting for this particular. Um, what's funny is I think I used the Magician one too. I just realized that. That's funny. So it feels appropriate for this picture. First of all, I did, funny enough, at the time it didn't really click in my head what I was using and the connection it had. And funny enough, I actually used the color that's considered the magician color. So, but first we're going to start off with the blue, which is the Emperor, and I have not treated this page. I've used watercolors like this on the previous page, and it came out pretty nice. So I thought I would try it again. One nice thing about this book is because of the way it's designed, I don't know the size of it, how the binding's done, it actually each page lays pretty nice and flat, but I still have some trouble, as we're going to find out, and this is why I call these demos and not tutorials, because you're learning right along with me. So in this case, instead of using my trusty water brush, I am actually using a watercolor brush, a rough looking one from the looks of it, where the paint's coming off the handle. I'm using a regular watercolor brush and then a couple pots of water. And I start by painting the page. If you're not familiar with using watercolor like palettes like this, typically what you want to do is moisten the color that you're going to use, usually with like a spray bottle or a couple drops of water. Go ahead and basically get it primed for when you start the process. And so that's what I did prior to this, and that's pretty much all I have. So I'm starting with this, and I'm trying to be conservative because sometimes I I get impatient and I like to lay the paint on really thick, and I'd rather just do one thick layer of paint than multiple layers, and it's kind of the same way with pencils and everything else art related I do. So I'm trying to be conservative here and just go in with the assumption that I am going to have to do layers. And you can see the shine a little bit. It's very interesting because, like I said, these are iridescent, so what I'm seeing, like that purple that I'm going to pull, actually looks like a dark blue when I actually put it on this page. So if you haven't watched one of these before, typically what I do is I talk to the process of the page itself and what I'm doing. I do different clips, like this portion, putting down this paint is going to be in real time, just so you guys can see, you all can see exactly what I'm doing. The second half of the page I speed it up a little because it's the same thing just with a different color, and talk about the process of the page and this and that, and pretty much in between. Usually I'll do the first half like that, and the second half will be just life chat. However, this one is probably going to be a little more intermingled just because this is primarily a watercolor page. However, it morphs into a multimedia page, which is multimedium page, which is what my previous page turned into, and I kind of dig that. So there are going to be other pieces of the page that I'm going to want to speak to a little bit, but of course the star of the show is are these watercolors. Now, Dreamland Watercolors, I'll have the site. So in the description, by the way, there are going to be jump links to each step of the process. Anything that I think is relevant, like the finished version of the picture, anything that somebody may want to just go and see without listening to me prattle through the whole video, because it is a long video, and of course I'm trying to be respectful of everybody's time. But links will be in the description as always, and then anything I used in the video I will link in the description as well. So Dreamland Watercolors is a kind of premium watercolor business that primarily does pre-orders. So she will create, I'm assuming it's she will create the sets, and she will show like demos of them on her site, and then she'll have a window of pre-order that will open up, and so then basically you go ahead and order it and pay, and then of course she uses the money to mix and create the watercolors, and and then they get shipped to you. And sometimes she'll have sales in her shop if she has an overstock of a certain item or whatever she may have, where you can buy it directly from her shop. I think right now some of these sets are still available, so I will link them down there. But a lot of time, like, her colors are limited. Sometimes they'll come back, sometimes they won't. So I end up buying a lot of them because they're pretty and shiny, and with all that's going on in the world, who doesn't need a little bit? Do you see that? Like where I don't know if you go back and look, but like where I'm putting this down on the paper, you can actually see the pigment like moving and shifting on the page. So to stop for a moment, when the first part up there, when it dried, I noticed was just really patchy, and even though the page is pretty flat, I noticed that the pigment is moving around a lot, and I did not use very much water in that section, so it doesn't look great. So I changed up my tactic. Down here I am putting on a thicker layer. I'm using more water. I'm pretty much just dipping my brush in between each time I pull up some pigment, and laying that down, and it seems like it's working a whole lot better. So in my experience on this page, these take quite a bit of water in order to work really well. And so this part's going to look a little different, and then I'll go back and touch up the top part up there. So but again, a con of using that much water is it's going to make the pigment move around on the paper even more. Like, if I was to do this picture over again, I would probably take these out of the book and lay them flat and put like painter's tape or something around the edges to try to get them even flatter than they are, to try to minimize how much puddling happens with this pigment. But you'll see it happen really with the pink that I use later on. So that's one thing I learned with this. So anyway, I have bought a number of sets from her shop and swatched them on here. If you've seen a bunch of my supply hauls, she does have multiple parts, like a major and minor arcana set. She has like a fun little soulmates one I think you saw at the very beginning of the video. She has like a cocktails one I picked up. Just a bunch of different ones that I've been collecting, like a dragon collects gold. And I hadn't just I've been looking at them, swatching them, admiring their shininess, and then not using them. So I figured this was going to change. And I wanted to see how these actually did, because I mean, these are not, these are premium watercolors and they're at a premium price. And I just want to make sure, you know, like when I see them on her site, I'm like, oh, those are gorgeous and totally worth it. What was I doing there? I don't know what happened there. But I want to make sure like I can actually paint with them as well. And so I want to make sure they actually do what they need to do. And if you saw the intro here, which shows the finished picture, you'll know that this page shines like Vegas at night. So I would say they definitely do their job, but there are some nuances to them. And probably to any type of iridescent watercolor. It may not just be hers, it may be others as well. So that's again why this is a demo and not a tutorial. But I figured out ways to fix, you know, fix little bits and pieces that were bugging me, and you'll see that in the video itself. So for the picture, I had seen it and looked at it, and I knew that I wanted to do like a two-tone in the water at the very least. And I knew that of course there would be blue. This could also be considered a galaxy type background if you wanted to, but I love black backgrounds, so I figured I'd mix it up a little bit. And I knew I wanted to use blue for coarse water, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do green or purple until I really started looking at the different paints. And so I settled on the Emperor Blue and the Magician Purple in the Major Arcana Part 1 set for the background. And I'm going to be right back on the audio. We've got somebody at the house to do like pest control type stuff, so I'll be back. Alright, yeah, we've got monthly pest control that comes because while we have cats, they are not good at pest control. They came inside and decided life's too cushy to need to dismantle bugs. And not that we have a lot of them, but it is swamp time in Tennessee in August, so just all kinds of bugs outside that like to try to come in through the screen porch. And we've got some field mice next door, particularly when they bush hog the field, that end up, if we don't cover the openings under the screen doors, will squeeze through and come running into the house. We've had a couple of those happen. Since we've sealed up those cracks, we haven't had a problem, but the cats, and I'm glad for it, me personally, but for a lot of people, like, they want their cats to be Mousers, and I'm kind of glad mine don't torment them. We have humane traps. It's a thing, but it works, so I'm not gonna, I just can't handle, glue traps would be a nightmare for the cats, and I can't handle snap traps, so that's just too much for me. So but no, I'm not gonna like cuddle them and bring them in and name them and put them in a cage, but they can't be here. But I don't feel like, I have a system where there's a local lake I let them out at, and I'm sure there's going to be somebody that comes on here and is like, oh, they probably get picked up by a hawk or something as soon as you leave, or an owl, and you know, they probably don't do well because they're in a new area and this and that. And you know, look, I'm giving them the best chance they would probably have in any other house that they went in. They would not have even one slim bit of a chance. So I am doing the best I can do. I try releasing them back into the field in the back part of my yard, and they're too close. They follow their scent trail and they get back in the house. So anyway, so yeah, no, he comes once a month. Mostly I just don't want a bunch of wasps and yellow jackets setting up nests around my house, and that's primarily what his role is to make sure that doesn't happen. So But yeah, so like I said, I knew I wanted to do the blue. I didn't really feel like picking a color palette. I just kind of wanted to wing it myself and wing it, haha, with the owl in the picture. Ah, that's my pun for the week. But so I just thought about, the color wheel and like opposite colors like I usually do. And so with blue, it's orange, if I'm not mistaken. And so I knew that I wanted to make the owl orange. And then when I decided on the purple instead of the green, I ended up opting in to put some yellow in, and like yellowish browns and colors like that. And then as I was working on the picture and thinking about which sections I want to fill in and this and that, I realized I wanted a couple different pops of other colors. So you'll see a bright pink here in a little bit, and you'll also see black, basically. So kind of just built my palette that way. If somebody were to ask me how I approach pictures where I build my own colors, that's basically what I do. Is the first thing I do is I always start with the area I know what color it's going to be. So like in this case, I knew some of the water was going to be blue. And I knew I was going to use blue. So we were going to start with that and just build from there. And sometimes my choices change during the picture. So I will color that area, then I'll color the next area that I know what color I want it to be, and just kind of build from there. A lot of times I use opposites on color wheels. If I'm trying to get fancy, I'll do like triads and the one where there's 4 colors and stuff like that, whatever that's called. A quad, I guess. If I want to get real fancy, I'll do that. If I'm just not feeling the opposite color. But usually that doesn't prove me wrong. If I'm really just not feeling like inspired at all by the picture, or I'm just really lazy and I don't want to build colors because that takes extra effort, I will pick a color palette usually from like the Sarah Renee Clark color cubes. So yeah, if you're curious about how I decide on my colors, if I don't specifically mention a color cube, I built the palette on my own. So, and that's usually how I approach it. So the more water in kind of a thicker layer of watercolor, I think works a whole lot better for these types of paints than trying to do the thin layer. And you'll see that in a minute when I go back over that thin layer. You would think multiple thin layers to build it up would be the way to go, and that would cover up any of those little spots where the pigment moves around and left gaps. Like maybe there's just a slight elevation to the page there. Basically, it's pooling in the low areas of the page, so it's not 100% flat. And what ends up happening, oh, I didn't realize I was doing some of this off camera. Let me see if I can. There's probably not much here. You'll see what happens when I try to go over and patch up places. So let's see, anything else in regards to the picture itself? There we go. All right, so yeah, I just forgot to move the camera down. So continuing on, I knew what colors I wanted to use for this. Like, I've wanted to do this picture for months, but it's just been hard to get started because when I use multiple mediums on a picture and it's not just grabbing markers or pencils, it takes a lot more time, and I have to be in the mood for it. I have to have the time for it. And even then, sometimes I just don't, I don't know. I am not a person who likes to spend hours and hours and hours on a picture. As beautiful as this picture turned out, it was kind of a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie. And that's the rub of it, is a lot of times I will finish a picture and it'll look gorgeous, and like even better than what I envisioned. And people are like, oh, you must be so proud of it. And I am. I'm proud that I persevered and worked through all the headache and found ways to fix the issues that I came across. And it looked ugly for a long time before it really looked good. And I am proud of it, but I'm also, and I'm proud for sticking with it, but I'm also like, this is probably not. I color for a lot of different reasons. We all color for different reasons, and part of what I color for is to have a creative outlet and to have something that I can put creativity to, and use different mediums for, and like an art more approach to it. And that's what this picture was. It was more of a labor of love, so to speak. And I do love the end result, but like it was work. I wouldn't call this relaxing or 100% enjoyable. I mean, I enjoyed putting down the watercolors and stuff, but it's not like, if I was looking for a picture to color to relax, um, this would not be how I would relax. This would just stress me out more because I have a vision for this page and I want it to go a certain way, and so I get stressed out when it doesn't. For pages that are more relaxation, like my color by numbers and my straight marker pages with a little bit of pencil, I'm willing to forgive a lot of mistakes. If I go out of the lines with the marker, or the colors don't turn out quite the way I wanted, or this or that, I don't sweat it as much as the ones I put a lot of time and effort in. So I have to be in that art mode to be able to successfully do one of these pictures. And it's like, oh, try push through it. No, if I push through it, then I make mistakes, and then I get even madder because it's really not going the way I want it to. So sometimes these can take a while to get going and to start out. And like this one, I've worked on it for weeks. So I was showing the shine here. I think I'm going to go back over that patch, that section at the top, with a second layer. I've tried to give it a little bit of time to dry. This paper, it's not heavy cardstock paper, but it also isn't paper that, and I put a lot of water on it. This is, Lulu Mayo's paper is strange. Like, I put a lot of water on this page and it does not buckle. It does not get wavy like any other non-cardstock page would get. Even some cardstock, if it's light enough, will get wavy if you introduce a lot of water to it. But this isn't doing that. It's keeping the water and the paint on the surface. It's not absorbing it, which is good for watercolors for sure. That's what you want, but like, it's not watercolor paper and it's not very thick paper, so that feels like magic to me, like witchcraft, but I don't understand it. But it works. And but the downside to it is kind of like the page I did in the Camilla de Erico book, when I treated the page and like the pigment stays on the surface. It does move around a lot, and while that's the goal, what you want with watercolors, it's not something I personally am super comfortable with. I'm more comfortable with paint, with colors staying where they're supposed to be. And so I have to get used to that. But like on this paper, this pigment, because it's just really sparkly and pigmented, is pulling it. Even though the paper doesn't buckle a lot, there's still dips and there's valleys and raised spots in the paper, just ever so slight, that even I can't really see. But the paint will pull into those low spots, and it creates kind of little gaps, little areas where it's patchy, basically. And I found, even when I went over with a second layer, hoping that once it dried, like, it would get a more even coat, it still did it. And you'll see a video or a picture later in the finished pictures, where you'll be able to see those patchy places a lot more. when you're looking at it from the right angle, it just looks luscious and like there's not a thing wrong with it. But if you look at it in another light, it looks a bit patchy. And I found a way to help correct that, fix it a little, so it looks better. But it's just something I want to communicate to people that want to use these types of watercolors that, again, I would recommend you remove the page from the book. Use paper that's watercolor friendly, first of all, because you're going to use a fair amount of water. Remove the page from the book if you can and put it on like a board or something, and use washi tape or painter's tape or something to tape the ends, the sides of it, and make it as flat as possible, like you would a watercolor or acrylic painting. And then try to use these. And I'm probably going to try it with the next page and see if I have any better luck with these, with the pigment not just moving and pulling in places. So we'll see how that goes. But and then again, even if they are premium watercolors, you're probably going to have to use a fair amount of water to really get that deep pigment color. And you could see there the difference between that first layer where I was a little more hesitant to use water, and then the second layer where I was just dipping my brush in between each time I was pulling up color, I was dipping that brush. This paper actually takes a pretty insane amount of water and doesn't like completely fall apart when you do it, which is pretty impressive for paper that's not exactly cardstock. So look at that. That was more shine than I expected, to be quite honest. Like it looks like I wanted it to look, but it looks even better. And like I said, from this light you can't see as many of the patchy areas, but they're there. And like if you take it out of the light into more natural light, it looks a little patchier. And but boy, does it shine, like a freaking disco ball, which is what I wanted these pictures to be. I wanted them to be something different. I wanted them to be multimedia, medium. I keep saying multimedium type pictures where I put a lot of different things on it, and it's not just markers and pencils. I wanted these to be like a card set, like a tarot card set you would buy, and they're all iridescent and like reflect and shine as you move the cards. That's kind of how I envision all of these going. So there's also a Color the Tarot tag that I'm going to link in the description that I believe Happy Catastrophe is doing, and that's where I did the first page. And like I haven't done I want to go from front to back in this, and it's been like forever. I did the first page last year, and I just haven't had a chance to do another one since. So this hashtag's for her channel as well. By the way, I should do this more often for sure, for people, but I do want to call out her channel if you're not familiar with it. It'll be linked in the description. But here lately, I really have been loving the vibe on her channel. Like she always has so much joy when she colors, and like when she shows her finished pages, or she's showing like new supplies she got or whatever. She's always so excited about everything, and her joy is contagious. And so I've been in a bit of a slump, which I'll talk about later in kind of my non-coloring section. I've been in kind of a slump lately and just not feeling super inspired, and like watching her videos has made me inspired and made me want to color again, because her enthusiasm is very contagious. And she is also the type that she likes to try new things on her pages and everything. So they're not just the conventional pencil only or marker only ones. So alright, so we are hopping in. Actually, I don't think I am using Magician. Maybe I'm using High Priestess. Well, that's a shame. That's a crime. The coloring police are going to come arrest me. I wonder why I didn't. Probably because it shows more pink on the paper than purple. And see, the funny thing is here, the High Priestess looks dark blue here. But on the paper, like when I'm looking at it in different lights, it's more of a deep purple. So, again, one of those things with iridescent colors to keep in mind. Hang on, sorry. Okay, I think everything's alright. Oh, Happy Catastrophe also fully sold me. Tammy had suggested them to me, but I had held off. But after watching some of her completed pages, I ended up picking up these super golden markers because they give you this type of iridescent shine in like a marker format. And you know me, I'm always looking for... I wouldn't use them for big backgrounds like this probably, but I would like use them for the little waves in the middle or whatever that you'll see in a minute. There's a perfect example of where I would have used one of those. Though what I had worked just as well, so if you don't have that... Oh, good job. That was you. Okay. I kept hearing noise on the other half of the room, and it was Leroy knocking things down. Yes, hello. Hi. Hi. I think he just said, acknowledge me. Yeah? I don't know if y'all can hear him. He gets stressed. He is, you know those old movies with like Gone with the Wind and stuff, where you have the Southern Belle type women that probably are half faint because they're in all that clothing on a day like today, but they have like fainting couches and they fan themselves and they get like upset over the smallest things. Like, he is really like a Southern Belle lady trapped in a cat body. I've never seen a cat that has so much anxiety in what is a relatively calm life. He just, like, he is like me. Because that's me. Even when things are going well, and things are calm, I can always find something to worry about. And so I guess he really is my cat, because he reflects more of me as a person than I thought he did, now that I'm thinking about it. So, and I too need medication to keep it in check. But no, he just, like, my husband and I have been going walking some evenings. He does not like it when anybody leaves the house, probably because we've both worked remotely and stuff. He really doesn't like it when both of us leave the house. And the other night I came home, he was on the washing machine when we left, and like 20 minutes later he was sitting there on the washing machine when we came back, and I had to pick him up and hold him like a baby on my shoulder to make him feel better. But if somebody shows up at the house or anything weird or different happens, he gets bent out of shape pretty easily. And so I think that's what he's doing, is he is stressing, and he is showing his stress. Or he could just be fired up. I'm not quite sure. It might be a little bit of both. I forgot to give him his ear med this morning. He does take amitriptyline to try to quell the worst of it, because if it gets real bad, it affects his stomach, and his stomach gets upset. So we basically are trying to keep it in check just enough so that it's not affecting his like physical health. So, but yeah, this really just looks like a darker blue, but it is actually purple, and hopefully you'll be able to see it at the end when I'm like moving the paper back and forth. Still looks good. It's just, again, funny to me how different. That's why it's iridescent, Michelle. Hello. But anyway, no, I highly recommend her channel. Like I said, particularly if you're kind of feeling like unmotivated lately. Like, I don't know, I wish my channel could be as positive and bright as hers. And it could be. I mean, as long as I never talked about anything actually real in my life, I probably could keep it bright and happy. And maybe one day I'll get to that. But I can't be quite that quite that excited, and I wish I could be though. So maybe one day I can be. I'm not saying it won't ever happen. Maybe that's something to strive for. So anyway, just a shout out to her channel because I just, like I said, I've really been enjoying watching that, watching her uh, videos. And she's like me. Sometimes they're long, and because she's so enthusiastic, she's talking about things that she did on pages and stuff. And I love that. I love chatty videos. Which, looking at this video, can't say anybody's surprised by that. Was funny when I first started the channel. I swore I told myself I was not going to be doing any type of chatty videos. It was just, and I don't know why. I think I didn't think I would ever get comfortable enough to want to do it. But at the time, I watched a lot of Anne. I don't know, she might have changed her channel name, but at the time it was called A Colorful Life. And she had a lot of chat heavy videos, and I really enjoyed those. So I just gravitated towards it. Plus, you guys are kind of free therapy in some ways. Sometimes I make connections on things on here that I then note for later for discussion with my therapist. So, but and it's tough. So you noticed I didn't post any. I'm sure some of you noticed I didn't post any videos last weekend, and I was going to put something on the community page about it, and then I was like, well, it's not like I've been gone for a month. It should be fine. I just needed a break. And I'll talk to that in a minute, kind of with the life stuff, but I just needed a bit of a break. And a lot of times when I'm feeling down and I'm having trouble being motivated and stuff, I don't want to do videos because if I push through, they're not good videos, and you really get the bummed out me version. And I'm like, nobody, I mean, yeah, we all want to be supportive, and everybody's going through struggles, and I share my struggles with you because I know others are feeling the same way, and I know it's a huge help to not feel alone at times like that. So I do share those, but I also know when a video is just going to turn out to be nothing but doom and gloom. And so had I tried to post this video last weekend, I wouldn't be feeling quite as peppy as I have for this video. So just took a break, which honestly, you know, if you've been around for a while, you notice that I have like ups and downs, and they're usually seasonal. So like I might take a break in the coldest months of the year. So like January and February. Sometimes I'll take a break in May or June, but that's because I'm busy. And then towards the end of the year, you'll see me gone for a few months. And so I'll have where a couple months I post a lot, and then a couple months I take a break. And I realized I haven't really took a substantial break since the start of the year. There have been weeks where I've only posted like one video that's been, you know, my coloring book collection, but I have stayed pretty consistently posting, and for the first time in 6 years. And I realized that last weekend, and I was quite surprised by that. And it's a good sign. It's a sign of, while things don't feel like they're getting any better day to day, like if I look at the long game and I look over time, like mentally and hopefully physically, like I'm starting to do better. It's just hard to see it in the day to day. So I still don't have time to color ever, it feels like, but I'm trying. All right, so I'll probably let this be an interlude into more of the live chat stuff. I am going to mix in, so just as a heads up for people that just want to bounce through the video and don't really care about my life, which is perfectly understandable. The next thing I do, I actually do use that pink for a section of this swirly bit here in the middle, and you're going to see where the pooling of the color is really obvious in that, and I find a way to patch that. Then I come in with a black glaze gel pen. You don't see that part. I actually just didn't didn't record that part. But then I come in with some markers, alcohol markers. I come in with some gold and silver chrome markers. And of course, all this is in the description. And then I'll wrap up with like my final thoughts. And then again, I'll repeat my takeaways from the watercolor portion of this. So that's kind of how the rest of the video is going to lay out. But if you don't want to listen to all that, you can just skip to the end if you want to see the finished picture and hear kind of my final thoughts on everything. So, but for those of you that are curious as to how things are going, they are going. I don't think they're going badly, really. Well, except for one area. But I don't think they're going badly. They're just going. And that's kind of what I was alluding to, was here I am trying to patch areas. And it's just pulling, like, so I'll see an area where there, real quick, I'll see an area where, and you'll see it in the screen, like there to the right of the picture. There's a little spot where the pigment kind of pulled away from and created a white spot. And I kept trying to go back over it, and all it would do is keep pushing. So, like, again, there are some folds in the paper, as smooth as it looks. Oh, here's where I grabbed the pink. What series was this from? Hang on, let me go digging. I think this is the Soulmates one. Yeah. And I can't remember what the name of the pink color is, but it's part of her Soulmates collection, which is just a set of 4. And so I wanted a bright pop of color here in the middle, so I decided to use the pink. And what you're going to see here with a lighter color that's not quite as heavily pigmented, you're really going to see it pull, P-O-O-L, in different areas and not be as pigmented in others as I put this down. And you're going to see me get very irritated. And I'm going to be using as much water as I was using with the other colors. But this is a different set, and it's supposed to be a lighter color anyway. So as I'm talking, you'll see this frustrate me to no end. But yeah, golly, when was the last time I did a color and chat? Let's like be for real here. I feel like it's been a minute. Was it the beginning of July? I think so. It was a video when I came back from my trip, which I did a trip recap. But yeah, that was the last one, and that was at the beginning of July. So it has been a minute. No. I take that back. I had a chat when I did the Camilla d'Erico picture a couple weeks ago. Okay. So it's only been a couple weeks, but I was supposed to post this like 2 weeks ago, and it didn't happen. So probably because I just kept putting off sections of this. Like, again, I wanted to do it, but I also just wasn't, I had to be in a certain mood. And so there at the top, you can see where it's not showing like it should. It's real patchy, and you can kind of see it in some different spots here. So let's see. I'm trying to remember what happened. If I repeat myself a little, I'm sorry, but a couple weeks ago, I've been wanting to redo my art room / work office area for a while, and finally got enough energy a couple weekends ago. I really splurged on a Secret Labs standing desk as my main desk for in here. And I have another sit-stand desk that sits adjacent to it that I've been trying. It's a cheap little one I got from Amazon that does the job, but like I wouldn't expect to pile a bunch on it or it to last years and years. It's worked really well, and that's primarily been where I work from. And then the big desk, if you've seen some of my previous videos, the big desk, it's this big old wooden desk with a hutch on it. It's from Goodwill. It's solid wood, but it's got a bunch of chips and marks in it. You've probably seen it in a lot of videos, but it works. and it does the job. And um, I've been meaning to upgrade that desk for a long time, but that desk is a pain in the ass to move. So I have not had the energy or the mental capacity to deal with that up until recently. Here I am going back in, trying to fill in those areas where the pigment pulled, and it just continues to move where it was going. So you can actually see there where it's patching up, and it was really irritating me. So what did I do? I said, we're going to fix this. Look at that. Yeah, no. I was like, that's not acceptable. So I found my Divical, that's not right, Pentel dual hybrid pens, which I've had for a while. And these are, I think, other than my Jelly Roll pens, probably my gel pens that give out the most output of color. But these are also iridescent. And so I found the pink one, and I decided to go over this with the pink, which turned out to be a fantastic move. These output really well. The color was very complementary to the watercolor that I was trying to use, so I got lucky in that I found colors that were close enough to match. And it went over the watercolor without too much trouble. I had a few areas where the watercolor kind of flaked off a little bit, but I would just clean the pen top every now and then and prime it a little bit on a piece of paper just to get it flowing good again, and then I'd go back over it. So I also do this, and I don't think I do this on camera, I also do this to the patchy spots for the rest of the page. So I found a purple, my purple Pentel hybrid pen I used for the light blue areas, weirdly enough. And then in my So Color gel pens, I found a purple that matches more of that dark purple. So those little patchy spots you see, I was able to get a pretty precise color match and kind of fill in, just patch up those areas a little bit to make it look a little more solid. So if you have iridescent pencils, they are a really good iridescent gel pens, they are a really good complement to, or glittery gel pens, they're a really good complement to iridescent watercolors if you do have problems with patchiness. Like you can see here, I filled the rest of that in with that gel pen, and then I came in with my black glaze Jelly Roll, which I love the shine that it gives as well. So I feel like those colors really elevated this page. So what I'm doing now, this Artigan chrome marker set, they have it in gold and silver. I decided I wanted a little more shine. Like there's not enough here. And so I decided to use the gold on the tips of the wings. So that's what we're going to see here. And you're only going to see me color a portion of these. So I basically just wanted to show you like each step of it and a little bit of what I'm doing. But I lost train of thought. Oh, so we spent that weekend, it was 2 weekends ago. I skipped swimming because I knew I couldn't do both in the same weekend. We got the hutch out of here. My husband got it upstairs. I still don't know how he did it. It was heavy, but more than anything, it's just our stairs are very awkward the way they're old style stairs, so they're a lot steeper than typical your current set of stairs normally would be. But we got that out. He got the desk set up. While he was doing all that, I was trying to sort and work on part of the other part of the room. And it was just an awful, humid, sweaty, gross weekend. I hurt in areas I don't normally hurt because I was doing a lot of bending and moving piles of stuff around and this and that. And we got we got the desk set up. I actually swapped my coloring space to the shorter desk, and now the bigger desk has my my dual monitor screen. The Secret Labs had under the table under the desk mount for my computer that I really wanted so I could have more space on the desk, which now Reepicheep takes over sleeping all day. And I'm really pleased with it. It really opens up the room. The hutch felt kind of shadowy, and like I think my lighting, actually this portion of the picture was filmed using my new lighting setup, and I feel like it's going to be a lot better, and not quite so dark all the time. So I'm really excited about that. And I definitely am going to show everyone once I get it done. However, I only got about half the room done that weekend, and then I just had to call it. And I have not had the time to go back since. So maybe this weekend, I'm recording some videos ahead of time. Maybe this weekend, who knows? I'll have a little time that I'm willing to devote to it. But yeah, once it's done, I'm definitely going to do a room reveal. I also have some shelving I'm putting in here where the hutch part sat that will hopefully house all my colored pencils and even watercolor pencils if I can swing it. So, been busy with that. I finally went through and boxed up a whole bunch of coloring books to donate, and so that was a huge part of what was taking up space in here. I went through the collection, took out all my finished pages, and I'm going to put those in like a folder in a book. Y'all may see them actually at the end of my coloring book and completed pages collection thing. And then I curated the books that I wanted to include in the giveaways on this channel, which will probably be September at the rate we're going. And now those are in a bin ready to go. So we might be doing 2 sets of those. I'm not sure. But I just kept those, the ones that I was going to give away, and then I just boxed up the rest. That was an endeavor. It's about 3 or 4 boxes worth. And that was a job. And did that. So feeling pretty good about the space. It's still work in progress, but I'm just glad I finally felt well enough to do a big part of it. And like I said, once everything's cleaned up and pretty, I will show all of you. But right now the other half of the room is still kind of just piles. They're sorted piles. It's at least reasonably organized compared to what it was, but it's still piles. So which is how I love to live my life, apparently. All right, well, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell I was gone if I didn't say I was, but I have to hop off real quick to go get some more coffee and do a few things, and we'll pick back up. Alright, this is me in the future. On the night that I'm hopefully finally publishing this video. I had originally recorded a whole section here, and then the weekend happened, and I was like, man, I don't feel real good about that last part. So here is the finished part with the gold, the Artugan chrome markers. And so I'm finishing out the rest of this picture with just multi-mediums, alcohol markers, gel pens. Is there anything else I used here? Gosh, I swear. If it's something I've done more than a few days ago, I struggle to remember. I also use that chrome marker for the center of the flowers. I use a gold and a silver. I think that's it. If I see myself using something else, but my original plan for this picture was to use water-based markers and then come in with pencil shading, kind of like I did in the picture previously in this book. However, honestly, by this point, the paint took a long time, and I was just ready to be done with this picture. I'm super proud of how it turned out, but I was like any picture, it's really hard for me to stick with a picture for a really long time. I just get impatient with it and I want to finish it out. And, or it just sits unfinished for months and months. So, this had already sat for months and months waiting for me to actually start it. So I was not about to stick it back in my forgotten whips. So I compromised and I'm still pleased with how it came out. So, if I'm repeating myself of anything I've talked about in this video, I do apologize. I tried to listen to bits and pieces of the first half. I just didn't want to re-record the whole thing again. Because it was mostly just the end part I wasn't happy with. I prattle on a whole bunch about life stuff, and I feel like I can shorten it and summarize it a little better. But, no, I guess the weekend perspective kind of changed some. I have a family member that's ill, a close family member, and I don't go into details about my family because it's private and it's not my business to talk about their health or anything on here. But it is somebody close to me, and there were some setbacks over the weekend. And I went and spent some time with them, and just dealing with that's been tough. With my other family trying to work through it, and it's just been hard. And I've honestly, my head is not my head is not really here in this space very well right now. But I kind of waiting to see. They're hoping to run maybe some blood work this week, and maybe it's something that can be improved upon and not just something that's just gradually getting worse as time goes on. It's either one or the other, I guess, or maybe a little bit of column A and column B. But it's tough because, I guess let this be a lesson. Don't let your job or anything in your life take priority, I guess, over family. One of the things I've really fought with over the last few years is the company I work at. It's a really high performance tech kind of company, and they expect a lot out of their employees, and too much, really. I will say that. And it's hard to set boundaries, especially when you're the new person and the economy's not doing the best in the world, and you're constantly worried about, layoffs and stuff like that. And so I've spent a lot of time the past few years just struggling to have the energy to work and just function on the daily, and I haven't spent as much time with my extended family as I wanted, and it just it makes me angry now. It really does, because I just don't know how much time I have. We never do, but I guess I feel, anyway, I can't talk about it too much without getting extremely upset and bringing down the rest of this video, and I'm going to try not to do that. But that has been forefront on my mind, and it's just a lot. And like I said, work's always pretty heavy too, just with what, I just explained with, it's always, there's never low times, there's never room to breathe. It never feels that way, at least. So it's a lot to deal with right now. But if I don't think I've already spoke to this, and this is what I prattled on about forever in here, but y'all don't need to hear all of it. But one of the things I've been trying to do is control the things I can control, which even what I'm finding is I really can't control very much in life is the big lesson here, but we will get to that in a minute. My big focus this summer was trying to control what I can, which involved trying to be more active to try to lessen the joint pain and issues that I'm having, try to build up some more energy where I'm just so fatigued all the time. And so I've been swimming since April, May, 2 or 3 times a month. I would go for like and swim laps for an hour, and that was really the only time I could get. And I do love the water, and it is. I do feel a whole lot better when I get done with it, more so than I do any other type of exercise. It's just the one thing that I just absolutely love. And well, absolutely love to a point. I mean, there's even some weeks where I don't want to go swimming. So, I mean, but that's the thing I probably was going to be most likely to stick with to start with. And so I've been doing that. And I felt, my fibro and my fatigue symptoms really vary season to season. I find that spring and fall I tend to feel my best, and then deep, heavy humidity summer like July and August, and even a little bit in the September as we cool off, and then the super cold winter months like January through March, I tend to feel my worst. And so I got back from my trip, and I've really felt lousy since I got back, and just trying to get back that momentum I had April through June, and it's been hard. I've been trying to do some different things. I've started tracking calories again, just to see if I can get my weight down some. I've started trying to eat a little better. Focus more. So I have PCOS. Which comes with insulin resistance. Of course, I have fibro, and I have chronic fatigue. I have gastroparesis. I have a number of medical things that I have to keep in mind. Like, I don't think my metabolism runs at the same pace as everybody else's due to the gastroparesis. Like, the food stays in my stomach longer. I don't think I burn as many calories in a typical day as most people do. Um, and then I have to work around the joint pain and fatigue with like being active. Really, I mean, I'm sure I overeat on my calories by a little bit, but mostly I think the biggest problem has just been being able to move or walk or do anything without it affecting having the energy to do so. And so, but I, again, just wanted something I could control, I guess. And I figured I could control my diet and control walking and stuff like that. And so, in exercise. So I started doing that. About, I've been exercising and being more active all summer and into the spring, but I didn't really start tracking my calories till about a month ago. And I've lost about 6 or 7 pounds, I think, within. I lost it, then I think gained back the water weight, then kind of lost it again, and then I got kind of stagnant, and that was where like I was like, okay, I've got to just track the calories straight up, but not following. I'm trying to adapt to my life over time rather than just trying to switch to a specific diet or anything. And so, this is not medical advice. I'm not suggesting anybody do this. B, I don't need medical advice. I talked about it with my doctor today, actually, at our appointment, and he was cool with it. And I was already seeing results. And so what using is working, and I'm sticking with it, and I'm just sharing it for informational purposes. Do with what you will. But I found 10 years ago I lost like 40, 50 pounds, and I kept it off for a number of years before it started creeping back on, and that's when I started getting hurt. Got sick and everything in 2014, and that's when it really started kind of creeping back on. And the big way I did it was kind of what they call macros, was shuffling my macros. So I am a carb girly all day long. Pasta, kids cereal,
Usually not super sweet stuff unless it's like kid cereal or just flat out candy, like cotton candy or something. Like I go for the extremes, I guess. And when I'm tired, when I'm depressed, when I'm just, that's what I reach for. And so left to my own devices, and I'm just tracking it and looking, I could take easily have 70-80% of my day be carbs. And I found what worked for me before was not going low carb or no carb. That's just no, not for me. But just shuffling things. So instead of having 70 to 80% carbs, like trying to aim for 50% or less, and then upping my protein intake. A lot of people say they don't care about like their fat percentage, but I find I feel crummy if I have a high fat couple days, like if I eat a lot of peanut butter or like steak with fat on it or something like that. Like I feel like I don't function super well if that's really high. So mostly just focusing on upping my protein seems to work really well, and I'm assuming it's due to the insulin resistance. I am pre-diabetic, but I'm not diabetic. I've been on that border. I've been hanging on that border for years, and I do not want to cross that border. So I do not want. I do not want to be welcomed into that particular group, and so I'd like to try, to avoid that. But with the insulin resistance and everything, you're kind of predisposed to it anyway, and you're at risk. So, um, but what was I gonna say? Um, yeah, I had to turn the page on this. It just was easier to color this way. Sorry. It'll be over in a minute. I promise. Look away if it offends you. But I found increasing my protein is always really the best way for me to do that, so I started doing that again this time. The big thing I did change though is I've really upped my fiber intake, and that one's interesting because so like studies have shown that like increased fiber like can help lower your cholesterol, it can help do a number of things and like help prevent like different like reduce the risk of like cancer, colon cancer and other things. And it because I have gastroparesis, I need, and that's just slow digestion. Like my body just takes a long time to digest food. The intestines and stomach area are kind of paralyzed, and they've not been able to determine what has caused it. But things just take a while, and so I find if I increase my fiber and I don't increase it like overnight way too high, because then the inverse can occur and it slows down even more. I It helps things move along, I guess, a little faster. But it's interesting because I looked the other night and they actually recommend to gastroparesis patients that you cut down on your fiber because it can increase the risk of complications. And so far it's working for me. So I guess if it causes a complication, I will address it then. But for now, it seems to be more of a benefit than anything to me. I have felt better this past month. I'm still trying to find a balance between being active and being so active I get anxious. And like right now, I'm kind of anxious, and it's hard. Sleep has been, I stopped taking the Ambien all through June and half of July, and I was feeling really good about it and sleeping well. And then it started coming back, and I started having insomnia again. Oh, so here we are. Quick clip. This is the finished image, and you can see all that sparkle, all that shine. The page just looks stunning in the light. It really does. I think I show a picture of it outside so you can kind of see like in natural light how it looks, but man, when you're shining it under like a light like this, it is just disco ball Vegas style. So here it is in like natural sunlight, and it still looks great, but you can see where I had some trouble with the watercolor paints. And like I said, with the paint moving, the the pigment and the iridescence moving around on the paper and creating kind of little holes and gaps. And I was able to fill some of that in with gel pen, but if you don't have the right colors, then like the purple didn't quite match, so it looks a little patchy, but honestly, I'm not that upset at all over it. And that was the thing. This picture really just irritated me for a long time until I got to the end. And I'm like, this might be one of the best looking pictures I've ever put together. And that's pretty funny because and that's what I find, that sometimes the ones that turn out the most stunning aren't necessarily the ones I enjoyed the most. I don't know, coloring for different things are very, I feel proud of it. I feel productive. I feel like, hey, I was able to create this awesome looking thing. Like, I'm happy with it. But did I enjoy the process like I would with some of my other pictures that I color like to relieve anxiety and stuff? Maybe not as much, right? Like, this was more of a labor of love. So, I guess closing thoughts on this is just, before I get back to what I was talking about, but closing thoughts on all this is just, the Dreamland watercolors are great. I do love them. I recommend, if you're using iridescent or metallic paint, just be aware that it may take more water, so it may not work well on thinner paper. The more water you use, the more the pigment's going to move and shift on the page. So if it's wavy paper, or it's not just good solid flat paper, then you might get where it pulls up in locations and it's not smooth across the board. This, like I said, Lulu Mayo paper is very strange. What I will probably do with the next page is try to cut it out and tape it down and see if that helps at all. It's very thin paper, which would make you think it would get wavy when you add water to it, but you can see it still looks pretty flat. However, it wasn't flat enough that the pigment didn't still move. So I might try taping the next one down to see how that goes. But just be aware of that. Gel pens are, as you saw, are a great way to fill in if you have similar colors to the paints that you're using. I found that, like that pink one I filled in, the Pentel dual hybrid pink one, did fantastic on here. So I feel like that pink and black stripe just really elevated this picture. Otherwise, I think it would have just been too monochrome. When you're looking at it in certain light, it does look like purple and blue, but like when you're looking at it here, it just looks like dark blue and regular blue. So again, one of the downsides to iridescent, it just really depends on where you're looking at it. But overall, I did like them. I'm happy I used them. You will see me, like I said, this book, I want to be my dazzle book. This is I want to use all my sparkly things in it and make each one look kind of like a shiny card. Like if you had a tarot deck and all your cards were like iridescent and metallic and shiny and stuff. And that's exactly what I got. So I am quite pleased with it. I am quite proud of it, I guess we could say, and that's, considering how down I can get on myself, that's saying something. But so if you were here for the demo part and don't want to hear me prattle on anymore about diet or life or whatever, feel free to head on out. I'll have some new book flips on Friday. Hopefully some more coloring book collection on Sunday, just as long as things go okay this weekend. But yeah, just know that with health issues and everything else, like everything I've stated going on, things are a little kind of up in the air right now. So I don't feel super, I thought I was getting burnt out a couple weeks ago, but I don't feel that way this week. But we'll just have to kind of see. It really, my mood's differing greatly even from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. I'm honestly taking each day a half day at a time right now, because otherwise it just all feels too overwhelming. So but yeah, so just rounding out what I was saying, that does seem to be working well for me. I swapped swimming for walks the past couple weeks because the weather has finally cooled off. Hopefully, we're going to have a couple more hot spells, but I'm kind of hoping we're already getting in the fall weather. Walking gives me a little more flexibility in that I can do it for shorter periods over multiple days. I don't have to drive and use up 2 or 3 hours on a Saturday to swim to walk, and I kind of need that flexibility right now given everything going on. And I've been so frustrated with things that it does help at the end of the day to go and walk. It doesn't feel like it at the time, but when I get back, like, yeah, it does help. Maybe not on the level swimming does, but it's something, and it gets me out of the house. And I don't love it, but I don't hate it, absolutely despise and hate it either. So, and my body seems to be welcoming it. My ongoing issues with my left foot aren't bothering me as bad because of that. I've also been doing some resistance weight training on my upper body a couple times a week, just starting off with like 10-pound weights to try to help with some of that chronic back pain that I have. And, some days it feels like it really has made a difference, and other days it's aching like it did when I first started. So, I don't know. That's what I was saying is I feel like I'm doing all the things, and I was telling my doctor that today. I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing, all these healthy habits and good sleep hygiene and walking and eating better and all this and that, and I'm trying to be positive and optimistic. I know it really sounds like it, huh? Like, Michelle, I don't think it means what you think it means. No, I've been trying, but it's just not it's not manifesting. And I got a little mad at my therapist last week because she's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you're expecting sweeping changes, of course, it's not going to all change overnight. And I was like, but that's not what I'm expecting. I'm expecting that if I'm more active, that I will sleep a little better at night. It'll be just a little easier to go to sleep, okay? Or maybe I will sleep a little better and not wake up as often during the night. Or I expect to lose a half pound every couple weeks or something, or I expect to have just a little bit more energy during the day. Like, I don't feel like these are sweeping changes that she thinks I'm expecting. I'm not expecting any of those. I'm just expecting small incremental changes, and none of it's helping. And this is where I wanted to say that no matter how much you try to control aspects of your life, sometimes it just won't work. And that's what I was going to talk about with my sleep. When I met with my doctor today, he was going to try a new med with me, a different type of medication. And we were all on board. Everything sounded great up until he noticed that I use Nexplanon, which is a form of birth control, and it can decrease the efficiency of birth control. And I was like, listen, I decided a long time ago that kids are not for me. I am 43. I have PCOS. I know the risk is low. However, the risk is not none. And the way the universe likes to screw around with me, I said, as much as I want to try this, and it sounds like it would be a huge change for me, I was like, I just can't take that risk right now. Now, if I can ever get near the big M, as they say, that transition for women, I might could try to go on it then. But I just can't take that risk right now. I could just imagine the universe like rubbing its hands, like that one meme, that guy behind that tree rubbing his hands, like, oh, this would be the greatest, the funniest thing ever if she got pregnant at 43. Oh God, that will keep me up at night right there. Yikes. Anyway, in this economy, in this environment, oh my God. So I was sad about that. But, he did say, hey, you made a good faith effort to try to get off the Ambien. He said, I'm not going to take it away. He's like, or anything like that. He said, you don't have to worry about that. He's like, you're doing everything you can. And he's like, it sounds like you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. You have good sleep hygiene. You don't, look at bright screens before you go to bed and stuff like that. You have your blue light filters on. You slowly, you turn off all the lights. You whatever they say good sleep hygiene is. He's like, and you have CPAP. You're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing. He said sometimes those things just don't work for people. Like for most normal people, they help, but for some people, they just can't turn their brain off. Their brain is inflamed, basically. And he's like, you may just be one of those people. And he's like, and it's okay if you need to take this. And just, every now and then try. If you feel like you're doing really well, try to go without it for a while, and it may even make it more effective because, over time it can become less effective and you have to take more of it. He's like, if you can just take a break from it, a lot of times that'll help kind of reset it. And so I was bummed, but again, like I said, it's a lesson, I guess, and a lesson I guess I want to share on here because I feel like a lot of people probably need to hear that we all so desperately want to control as much as we can in our life, and we realize there's a lot of things out of our control, and as we try to control things, you realize that span of control is smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller than you ever expected. But then sometimes the few things that we feel like we have control over, we don't. And so you just got to do the best you got to do. And I am not giving up entirely. I'm going to keep at it. If anything, what I'm doing is helping me handle that. I handle a little better the things I can't control. I'm still upset. I'm still depressed. I still struggle, but I'm at least up and still moving around. So, but anyway, that's about it. I'm going to end this a little less. This wasn't quite as long as the one I did the other day, so I did summarize a little better. I had some new things to add to the mix. The cats are all doing well. Winry does not like when I have to go stay with my family. She's unhappy about that, but there's not much I can do there. I'm just trying to keep a balance between being here and being there, and it's hard when you're trying to be in two places at once. So, but yeah, the cats are doing well, and husband's doing well. He might disagree, but I think he's doing well. And maybe one day I will get this office studio to the point that I can actually do a tour video. And it's just like I have the time to do it now, but it's so nice outside. When I have the time, I'd rather be out on the porch than in here. I don't know. It's weird. But alright, I'm going to get this wrapped up so I can post this tonight. Sorry for all the prattling. It's been a hot minute since a color and chat, so but I hope you enjoyed watching the picture. I hope you enjoy the results of the picture, and another one in the books for Watercolor Summer 2024. So hopefully talk to y'all Friday. Hope you're having a great week. Bye for now.